It's June 25th, 2020. And we're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. And we are in text 5. Text 5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavat yutamashloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 5. Taptam tappa vividaloka sisrikshaya me adau sanat svatapasa sa chatusana abut prak kalpa samplava dinashtam iha atma tattvam samyak jagada munaya yat achakshata atman taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me. Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me. Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu. Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu. Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatma tattvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatma tattvam.
Jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me.
Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu.
Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatma tattvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatma tattvam.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshaya me.
Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu.
Adau sanat svatapasa sachatusanobu.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtam ihatmatatvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihātmatātvam.
Samyak jagadamunayo yadachakshatatman.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
If anyone on internet would like to recite the verse.
Taptam tapo vividaloka shishrikshayame. Taptam
Nam tapo vividaloka sishikshayame.
adau sanatsva tapasa sachatu sanobhut.
Adal sanat swatapasa sachatu sanopu.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihātmatātvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatmatatvam.
Samya jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshayame.
Taptam tapo vividaloka shishrikshayame.
Adau sanat swatapasa sachatu sanobhut.
Adal sanat swatapasa sachatu sanopu.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatmatatvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatmatatvam.
Samyak jagada munayo yadakakshatatman.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatman.
Taptam tapo vividaloka shrikshayame.
Taptam tapo vividaloka sisrikshayame.
Adau sanatsva tapasha sachatu sanobu.
Adal sanat svatapasa sachatu sanobhut.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatmatatvam.
Prakalpa samplava vinashtamihatmatatvam.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatvam.
Samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatvam. Okay, this is Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 5. Taptam, having undergone austerities. Tapa, penance. Vividaloka, different planetary systems. Sisrikshaya, desiring to create. May, of mind. Adau, at first. Sanat, from the personality of Godhead. Svatapasa, by dint of my own penances. Sa, he, the Lord. Chatusana, the four bachelors named Sanat Kumara, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatana. Abut, appeared. Prak, previous. Kalpa, creation. Samplava, in the inundation.
In the inundation.
Vinashtam,
Vinashtam,
devastated.
devastated.
Iha,
Iha,
in this material world.
In this material world.
Atma,
Atma,
the spirit.
the spirit.
Tattvam,
Tattvam,
truth.
Truth.
Samyak,
Samyak,
incomplete.
Incomplete.
Jagada,
Jagada,
became manifested.
became manifested.
Munaya,
Munaya,
sages.
Sages,
Yat,
Yat,
that which.
that which.
Achakshata,
Achakshata,
saw clearly.
saw clearly.
Atman,
Atman,
the spirit.
the Spirit.
Translation. To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas, Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandana, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Vishnu Sahasranam prayers mention the Lord's name as Sanat and Sanatana Tama. The Lord and the living entities are both qualitatively Sanatana or eternal, but the Lord is Sanatana Tama, or the eternal in the superlative degree. The living entities are positively Sanatana, but not superlatively, because the living entities are apt to fall to the atmosphere of non-eternity. Therefore, the living entities are quantitatively different from the superlative Sanatana, the Lord. The word san is also used in the sense of charity. Therefore, when everything is given up in charity unto the Lord reciprocates by giving himself unto the devotee. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 4.11, Yeyatamam prapadyante. Brahmaji wanted to create the whole cosmic situation as it was in the previous millennium, and because in the last devastation, knowledge of the absolute truth was altogether erased from the universe, he desired that the same knowledge again be renovated. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in the creation. Because transcendental knowledge is a prime necessity, the ever-conditioned souls are given a chance for liberation in every millennium of creation. This mission of Brahmaji was fulfilled by the grace of the Lord when the 4 sanas, namely Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandana, and Sanatana, appeared as his 4 sons. These 4 sanas were incarnations of the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. And as such, they explain transcendental knowledge so explicitly that all the sages could at once assimilate this knowledge without the least difficulty. By following in the footsteps of the 4 Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself. Hare Krishna. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Parantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvekam Savadutam Parijana Sayitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Dr. Kansana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7. Text 5. Taptam tapo vivida lokasi srikshaya me adasanat svatapasa sajatu sano bhut prakalpa samplava vinashtami hatmatatvam samyag jagada munayo yadachakshatatman. To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas, Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandana, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada's referring to a Vedic verse, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanyanam, that the Lord, Krishna, is the supreme eternal amongst all eternals. We're eternal, and Krishna is the source of all eternals. Ekobhavanam Yogi Didati Kaman, and that one supreme personal source maintains all of the manifestations, maintains all creation and all living entities. And so we heard about Kapila Dev giving knowledge. Yesterday Narayan Prabhu spoke on Dattatreya also giving knowledge. So here's an incarnation. It's actually 4 persons, 4 brothers called the Kumaras. Kumar means beautiful young boy. And so it's actually four persons, but we generally think of them as one. But they are 4, and sometimes we do hear from them separately. But 4, Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandan, and Sanatana. And again, their special mission. They're empowered incarnations of Vishnu, of Krishna, and their special mission is to give knowledge. It is the whole material creation. Because, of course, relatively, there's sattva, rajas, and tamas amongst humans, amongst sometimes our minds, and sattva, relatively more sattva, rajas, tamas amongst plants. There's plants and animals, relatively more tamas or sattva. But the whole context of the material creation is avidya. It's ignorance. The whole context of the material creation is ignorance of who we are as spirit souls and servants of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, I mean, there's so many complexities and nuances and subtleties. Still, we can simplify it that whenever God or his pure representatives come here, that tamasima gyotir gama, that's a Vedic aphorism that says, come out of the darkness into the light. Come out of the darkness into the light. So when Krishna directly or through his pure representatives, his expansions, his incarnations, his avatars, his Shakti-Vesh avatars, it's always about dissipating the darkness, this very Bhagavatam. It's described that this is the light for the age of Kali, to dissipate the darkness of ignorance in this age. Kalavasmin yuge jana purnako duno ditaha. Yes, and so the 4 Kumaras, they're a knowledge incarnation. They're especially empowered to communicate and to share transcendental knowledge. The Kumaras, they're really, in this particular creation, they're the first offspring of Brahma. There's so much in the Bhagavatam that describes Brahma's offspring, and the first ones was the Kumaras. And Brahma himself is the source of so many Prajapati. Prajapati means those whose service is to increase the population. So we see here, first of all, the Kumaras, just like we hear about Narada Muni through so many places. Similarly with the Kumaras, they appear, they show up again and again. Just a chapter or so back, Brahma was talking to Narada saying, amongst the really great personalities are the Kumaras. And even they cannot understand Krishna like that. In the third canto, the Kumaras are very prominent. Even we hear about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and those pastimes with Lord Nrsimhadev and Lord Varaha. Well, it all starts with the Kumaras. There's extensive stories and transcendental dramas and pastimes related to the Kumaras. So chapter 12 of the third canto, it's entitled Creation of the Kumaras and Others. And so the Kumaras were the first sons of Brahma. And here we hear Brahma so much praising and appreciating the Kumaras. Well, actually, he was so Brahma was quite angry at the Kumaras, right? He was not pleased with them at all. He was quite angry with the Kumaras. All sorts of fascinating pastimes. He gave birth to the Kumaras, and then he said, as the biblical injunction goes, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Right? Like, get yourselves a wife or a few and be fruitful and multiply. And the Kumaras were like, no way. So Brahma, he was angry. It's described. Yes, he was angry. And because here's his sons and disciples, and they're not obeying. And so generally that would be a transgression, that would be a violation, that would be an offense. But in this case, because the Kumaras truly had transcendental knowledge, and they, even though Brahma's so great and their father, and he's such a devotee of Krishna, but they did not. They said, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And so Brahma got angry. He got really, and then from that anger, ultimately Shiva came from that anger. It's that Shiva in many different Rudra forms, 11 Rudra. Rudra means like red, anger. So that's all the Kumars' fault, okay? Because they didn't follow their father. Of course, it was really not a transgression. It was not an offense for them. Typically, it would be. In a sense, they did not obey their father, a great devotee, spiritual master. But in this case, the Kumars truly had full transcendental knowledge, and they knew it's not our service to be fruitful and multiply. So Brahma got angry, and then these different anger, the Rudras, Shiva's manifestations came, and then that starts a whole thing of, and then Brahma did produce many sons. Most of all except one did expand the progeny. They did expand the population. I think there was 9 or 10 or 8 or 9. Yeah, that's like Daksha, Marichi, like that. And they did have so many offspring and grandchildren and da-da-da. And the one who did not was the one he's speaking to now, Narada Muni. So Narada Muni and Kumar and the 4 Kumaras, they're sons of Brahma, but they did not expand the population. Their main thing is sharing transcendental knowledge throughout the universe and beyond the universe, throughout the universe and beyond the universe. Completely transcendental personalities. And yes, so the Kumaras, they're their history has some similarity to the history of the main speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the main speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, that's Srila Shukadev Goswami. And Srila Shukadev Goswami, he was an impersonalist. his relationship with the Absolute was towards the non-personal. Of course, he did not have any envy in his heart. In many, if not most instances, those who are inclined towards the non-personal, the radical Advaitavad, non-dual aspect of the Absolute, then because of envy in the heart, Avishuddha Buddhayo, they'll tend, they're not able to surrender to Krishna, and because the relationship aspect of bliss is missing, they'll come back down to the material sphere. So Shukadeva Goswami, we've discussed him many times in these forums. So Shukadeva Goswami, he was, his relation with the Absolute was Brahman. But then, even though he was Brahman realized, which is quite a happy state, but even he was attracted to the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis and with the cowherd boys, which shows the supremacy of Bhagavatam and Bhagavan realization. So the Kumaras were similarly, their bhava, their particular attraction to the Absolute was towards the non-personal. And then it's described. Yeah, it's one, for me, one of the most moving chapters in the whole Bhagavatam. It's chapter 15 of the third canto. And Prabhupada entitles it Description of the Kingdom of God. And what it is, you've got a description as experienced through the Kumaras. The Kumaras, they're so pure, they leave the material realm, the realm of avidya, and they go to Vaikuntha. And we're kind of getting like a vision of Vaikuntha through the experience of the Kumaras. For me, one of the most moving chapters of Bhagavatam. Very, very amazing. And so the Kumaras, they were, again, Brahman realized, and then it's described that they got a whiff, they smelled the fragrance of the tulasi leaves and flowers that were offered to the lotus feet of Vishnu. And through that spiritual sensory experience and inspiration, they became great devotees. So they went through a transformation of consciousness in that way, just like Shukadeva Goswami did. And the Kumaras, they are the heads. They are the heads of a sampradaya. Prabhupada, sampradaya means like a party or a group. So like our Bhakti Yoga Vaishnav Sampradaya, it's the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and of course, and just in this Sampradaya, there's so many branches, and there are four Vaishnava Bhakti Yoga Sampradayas. One starts from Brahma. Krishna himself, in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared in that Sampradaya, and that comes to, of course, our current link to the Parampara Srila Prabhupada. And another Sampradaya comes through Lakshmi, and another Sampradaya comes through Shiva, and another Vaishnava Sampradaya comes through the four Kumaras. So these are full. So the Kumaras' realization, the Kumaras' experience of the Absolute is the same as the realization of Brahma, Shukadeva Goswami, Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Prabhupada, the same as the speaker, the compiler, the hearer, Maharaj Parikshit of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, there might be some distinction in terms of the particular flavor, particular perspective. Still, they are a fully bona fide sampradaya, starting from the Kumaras. And I mean, of course, the sampradaya, the parampara coming through Srila Prabhupada is what's most relevant for us, and like that. And I mean, I think we can say if we look worldwide, that the sampradaya, the parampara, coming through Lord Chaitanya and through Srila Prabhupada, who took it out of India, is probably the most vibrant and alive worldwide. But that doesn't minimize that the Kumara Sampradaya is a bona fide Sampradaya. So these are empowered. So the Kumaras are especially empowered to give transcendental knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Yesterday, Ryan was talking about like the mystic powers of Prahlad Maharaj, and like that, and all pure devotees. So Krishna says, there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. It is the mature fruit of all mysticism. So that's the idea. That's the principle. That someone's striving to develop mystic powers or striving to develop knowledge, it culminates, if we're clear-minded, if the yogi, if the jnani is clear-minded, it culminates in transcendental knowledge that will really move us tama sima gutir gama, out of the darkness and into the light, out of the darkness into the light, move us to realize who we're not, that we're not matter, we are spirit, soul, and realizing that we're spirit, not matter. That's Brahman realization, and that's wonderful. That's such a relief from trying to control the material context to be happy. It's such a relief from, as Saint Francis said, we are searching for what is searching, trying to seek in matter for all those brilliant qualities of the soul that are within us. So that's a relief, and that's not the totality of transcendental knowledge. It's not enough, we might say, if we really want liberation from matter in an enduring, eternal way. So that we are, we're not matter, we're spirit, and we're not the Supreme Spirit, we're servants of the Supreme Spirit. So this whole idea of knowledge, like, because we can think of knowledge just like, just like overt, gross, material, karmi consciousness. I want to collect more money. I want to get a Rolls Royce. I want to get a bigger house. I want to, amass things. And so the jnani consciousness, when it's devoid of bhakti, it's the same thing, but with knowledge. I'll collect knowledge. Like, and then I'll Ishvarahama, and then I'll control and I'll enjoy. And it's more subtle than the gross materialist, but it's the same principle. And so this transcendental knowledge that the four Kumaras are empowered to give, this transcendental knowledge, that this isn't about like acquiring knowledge. It's about serving truth. It's about serving knowledge. That's bhakti. Because truth, it's about serving the truth with sincere devotion. And every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, every verse of Bhagavad Gita is truth, and each vibration of these shastras, each vibration of Prabhupada's purports, Prabhupada's lectures, is identical with the truth that it reveals. And so this truth is revealed to us as we surrender and serve. This is the example of the Kumaras. This is the example of all bona fide sampradayas. Now, of course, just like if we do want more money, or if we want improved health, or we're in distress, and we serve, okay, then there is akama sarvakama moksha kama udaraditi vrena bhakti yogina yajeta pusham para. It's described what we have. All material desires, gross, subtle. We want desires for liberation, whatever we want. The best course of action, the most recommended course of action. Tivrena means intense. It's described like the sun rays through a magnifying glass are intense and they create fire. Intense devotional service. So Krishna says, Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritina Arjuna Artoji Yasar Artati Gyani Cha Bharatarshava. Krishna says different types of persons approach me. Some approach me for money, some approach me to get out of distress, some approach me out of curiosity, some approach me for knowledge. And those who approach for knowledge or curiosity, it's kind of a step above those who approach for grosser material motivations. Krishna says none of them are pure devotees, and they're all praiseworthy. They're all magnanimous, pious souls. And any reason for which we approach the Supreme Pure will purify our heart. So including if we approach, because I do want knowledge, and I want to be seen as smart and whatever. Okay. And so this transcendental knowledge, the mature fruit of all mysticism, the goal of mysticism, the goal of study, the goal of work is the goal of Varnashram. So this transcendental knowledge, which is non-different from and is revealed through the process of bhakti, devotional service, it burns to the crisp. It burns to ashes the very seeds of the chain of fruit of activities. Burns to ashes the very seeds of it burns to ashes all karma right to the core. Yadanudhyasina yuktas hamagrantini bandhanam chindanti kavidastasya konakoyet kataratim. That armed with the sword of transcendental knowledge, those who are armed with the sword of transcendental knowledge, they cut through the binding knot of reactionary activity through this hearing and chanting process. And then Sutta Goswami rhetorically asks, who then will not give their devoted attention to Srimad Bhagavatam? Because we hear and chant Srimad Bhagavatam, and all that is all the avidya, all the darkness within is destroyed, is dissipated by the shining light of transcendental knowledge. Krishna says similarly in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham mevanu kampartam, Tesham mevanu kampartam, Nashayam yatma basvata. He says, I dwelling within their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And so that's where Prabhupada concludes the purport here. So Prabhupada says, by following in the footsteps of the four Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead within him, within oneself. So we follow in the footsteps of these fully realized bhakti yogis, Mahajano Yena Gatasapanta, which means we use our intelligence to follow in the footsteps of the great bhakti yogis. And then we're relieved of the ignorance that's plaguing our heart. I know, later today, this evening, I'm going to conduct some PPTC. It's an acronym for our coach training. We have one group that's in part 3. And tomorrow we start a coach training, the first class of a part 1. And I think some of you might be there, actually. And anyhow, I know that starting tomorrow and throughout the whole 9-10 months of the coach training, we're going to emphasize that all the skills and all the methods and all the techniques, and we'll get into them, and they're all meant for supporting clients and ourselves and all human beings for super soul realization, to clear the junk, to clear the static, to clear the dirt, to clear all the internal interference, so that we are so that we have a clean connection with that highest guidance within. Depending on who's there, we may or may not use the term super soul or paramatma, but that gets to the essence of what the whole coach training is about. All these methods, skills, principles, supporting clients or whomever to connect with the highest guidance within, and that's Krishna within the heart. Krishna says, Matchata sarvadurgani matprasada tarishasi atachatvam ahankaram ajoshasi vinangshasi. Krishna says, if you listen to the voice of Super Soul in the heart, he says to Arjuna, and you'll easily cross beyond this, the material, the ocean of material nescience. But if you don't hear the Super Soul in the heart, and don't take shelter there, and don't act accordingly, and instead act according to ahankara, false ego, then you'll be lost in the ocean of material misery, the ocean of material nescience. So that's what coaching is about. We just presented the whole course in 2 minutes, and then that's what all occupations are meant to be about. Narada Muni, earlier in the Bhagavatam, he's talking to Vyasadeva, and he talks about politics, he talks about physics, he talks about chemistry, he talks about social work, talks about psychology, talks about economy. He says, Idam yipumsas tapasashutasya sutasya sviktasya champuri datayo avichuturta kavibir nirupito yagutamashlaka gunanuvardhanam. He says that all fields of human endeavor, all austerities, all sacrifices, all arts, all sciences, all crafts, all fields of human endeavor find their perfection and completion in connecting with, in glorifying the Uttama Shloka, that supreme person who is glorified by the choicest Vedic verses. Nasta Presha Bhadrashu Nicham Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavat Uttama Shloki. Same word, Uttama Shloke. Like Tama is ignorance, Uttama is above ignorance. So the shloka is the literature that is above all ignorance. It glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So our process of Bhakti Yoga is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. It is not a world-rejecting process. Some approaches to spirituality, essentially, if we get to the core, they are world-rejecting. Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, it's very world-embracing. It's very world-embracing. Oh, you're a communication trainer. You're a physician. You're a physicist. You're a clerk at the post office. Whatever your occupation, embrace it and cultivate knowledge as given by the Kumaras, as given by Srila Vyasadeva. Cultivate expertise, cultivate subtle, powerful realization. How to integrate and utilize this occupation, this body of knowledge in the service of Uttama Shloka, in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, yeah, that's why we've often said, really for decades now, that in one sense, in our Safatov endeavors, sure, it's about showing how all these fields. Actually, I just had some correspondence with someone through old-fashioned regular mail, and And he was saying he has a little contact with us, not much, but he was saying that he's very moved and impressed. He's also a follower of Srila Prabhupada. He's very moved about how through psychology and communication training and leadership training and coaching and coach training, that he can see he can see that through these programs and structures and professions and methods and principles, people are coming to transcendental knowledge. People are coming to super soul realization. People are coming to follow regulative principles. People are coming to Srila Prabhupada. And so our endeavor is to attempt to show that not only all of these, whether it's psychology, social science, research, and coaching, transformational process, not only can it be used in Krishna service, but anything in these fields that has value and meaning and substance finds its origin, completion, and perfection when dovetailed into the service of truth, when dovetailed into the service of Prabhupada's teachings, of these truths that are given by the four Kumaras and all the Vaishnava paramparas. And that possibility is there in practically every field of human endeavor, just waiting. Again, this philosophy, this process, it's not world rejecting, it's world embracing. Let us be so strong and fixed and intentional in our determination to serve Krishna that we're able to go into any environment, any profession, any field, and unlock it to find Bhagavad Gita there, to find Krishna there, to find to find that ocean of transcendental knowledge there that will support us and others, etam sa astaya paramatma nishtam, to cross over the ocean, the nescience, the ocean of the nescience of material existence. So this shloka reads about the four Kumaras. Tap tam tapo vivida lokasi srikshaya me adel sanat svatapasa sachatu sanobhut prakalpa samplava vinashtami hatmatatvam samyak jagada munayo yadachakshatatman. To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in four sanas, Sanaka, Sanat Kumar, Sanandan, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the four sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your attention and presence. I welcome any comments or questions.
Krishna, thank you for class. So I briefly asked Malini when you made the comment, Brahma told the Kumaras, get a wife and multiply, or fruitful, whatever. And I said, isn't it that there was nobody to multiply with? And then Malini replied, well, Brahma also didn't have a wife and he created children. And so my question is, okay, so it seems like at the beginning there was no need for women in terms of procreation. And why and how did that change? At what point and for what reason then did women become a necessary factor for procreation?
Yes, well, pretty early there. I mean, it's described, I mean, in one sense, we get, the whole Bhagavatam, as vast as it is, it's a very partial biography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. And so Brahma also had daughters, and Yeah, so he also had daughters, and then there was like, let me try to remember some of these histories. Yes, yeah, he also had daughters, and then like our current conceptions of incest don't apply. Same with the biblical creation with Adam and Eve. In the like that, Adam and Eve were both son and daughter of God. So Brahma also had female offspring. He also had female offspring, and then some of them would get together with the male offspring and start the whole thing going. So it's quite a rare thing. But yeah, but in Brahma himself came from Vishnu. So right, so there wasn't the normal mother-father thing. And yes, some of Brahma's offspring comes from his angry thoughts or different things like that. But Brahma did create female, sometimes in ways that we would consider unusual. But that's there. That's there. And yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Connected with that question, connected and directly with that question, I have so many questions, like really a lot of questions, like chronological question. And here it says Sanat Kumar and also Kumars, they came from Brahma. And then they were at the beginning of creation, and because they were there, they could teach to the sages. And then there is a story of them being impersonal, and then becoming personal by smelling tulasi leaves. And it seems the chronology is jinxed my mind, because where the tulasi leaf was offered, by whom, who are those sages, if they were the first to come and had perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, which means Bhagavan knowledge. How can they smell the fragrance of flower offered to a tulasi flower offered by whom? Like things like that are going on for me. And also the knowledge as we hear it is through our Sampradaya, Brahma, Narada, and Brahma received all the knowledge. And so, like he said, it's lost. Well, yes, it's lost because it's one of his functions to receive knowledge directly from Krishna and then to give it to Narada and like that. So that's what's happening in my mind.
Thanks for sharing, Melanie. Yeah, I don't have much detailed response. I mean, there's some principles here. First of all, as far as the Kumaras smelling the fragrance of the tulasi flowers offered to Vishnu, my understanding is that happened in Vaikuntha, because as we mentioned in most advanced courses, yeah, so the Kumaras, they could go to Vaikuntha, right? And so there's no avidya, there's no loss of knowledge. So my understanding is that whole transformation took place during a visit to Vaikuntha, and then it was after that. Yeah, so I don't know the exact chronology. Also, a principle is, and it's very clear. It's not just like something we're saying to try to connect dots, but it's very clear in the Bhagavatam. But the Bhagavatam, sometimes the chronology seems off because it's talking about different creations, different kalpas, different universes. And the word kalpa, sometimes it means a day of Brahma, sometimes it means a lifetime of Brahma. And so it's sometimes talking about different creation destruction cycles. And so when we hear stories about Kumaras, stories about Brahma, it's not necessarily always referring to this particular universe in this particular lifetime of Brahma. So this is like a principle. I don't know exactly how to apply the principle in this verse, but it's a very real principle like that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Prabhu, can you, one place I'm curious to understand more is like the Kumaras are some form of incarnations of Vishnu, right? And so like how are incarnations of Vishnu impersonalist and like them like kind of fall in love with Vishnu or Bhagavan, like
Right. Yeah. Well, my understanding, I believe the Kumaras are in that category of Shaktivesh avatars, and they're particular, just like Prithu Maharaj is a Shaktivesh avatar, especially empowered for spiritual governing, and the Kumaras are especially empowered for transcendental knowledge. Narada Muni is a Shaktivesh avatar like that. So, yeah, that, you know, it's not our role or position to see or perceive like Shukadeva Goswami or the Kumaras were like ever impure you know, so my understanding is, you know, if we hear like times when Brahma gets bewildered or Shukadeva Goswami's transformation or things like that, then we see that as pastimes between Krishna and his pure devotees, Krishna and his pure devotees. And from those pastimes, we can be encouraged. These are pastimes enacted between Krishna and his pure devotees to enliven us to come out of the darkness into the light. And so I don't, you know, I don't know anything about the psychology of the Kumaras more than what I hear in Prabhupada's books. But we can see that in that pastime where the Brahman realized, and then they smell the fragrance from Lord of the flowers, the tulasi at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, right? Then that's for us to see how powerful is this bhakti yoga? How powerful that even the fragrance of the tulasi offered to God is powerful enough. So is so powerful to create a whole transformation of life and consciousness. And this is true. How Shukadeva Goswami was transformed by hearing the verses from the Bhagavatam. So I don't know exactly, it's not for me to comment on what's happening for Shukadeva Goswami, why was he Brahman realized and like that. But I see these are pastimes to enliven and encourage and inspire us for each limb of the process of Krishna consciousness, and to take it to heart with gratitude.
Yeah. When you say pastimes, can we equate that to the action of Yoga Maya? Like in the same way that there is a pastime with the cowboy or Mother Yashoda with an illusion. Can it be like also the pastimes within the material universe, like Sanat Kumar or the Kumara being covered over, being pastime in that way that they are covered by Yoga Maya too, and for the Lord to enjoy, or to enjoy in a way that's in his creation to liberate the fallen conditioned soul.
That's the way I see it. Yeah, this is Yoga Maya, right? This is Krishna's energy. It's kind of like, you know, again, my understanding is, okay, Shukadeva Goswami for Kumaras, under the influence of spiritual illusion, you know, that brings them to their amazing transformation from Brahman realization to bhakti. And yeah, Yoga Maya, that describes it well.
There's a part, I just want to share a pearl because there's a part of the purpose I really like when Prabhupada said, otherwise there will be no meaning in the creation. And so it's so clearly stated that there will be no meaning to have any creation if it wasn't for self-realization, God consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because recently I've heard a lot of people in my family, a few people in my family who think like the earth would be so much better if there was no human being. And in fact, there is a philosopher in France who is just speaking a lot, he's becoming more and more famous about that the human being is going to be an extension of the human being. And then the member of my family said, well, yeah, and why do we think that human beings should be part of the creation or should be existing? Because in fact, the earth will be so much better if they were not there. And why do we think that, why are we so centered around ourselves to think that creation, nature, you know, they see on the level of the earth needs us. And it was difficult for me to respond to those questions or to participate. I could listen and I could reflect and I could accept, you know, their perspective. At the same time, it was really hard for me to bring a sense that, well, then what will be the meaning? I did ask that question, what will be the meaning? But the response I got is that there is no need for a meaning. And it seems so, that response seems so devoid of common sense, you know, because every day, every human being try to do actions that are meaningful, whatever meanings they mean, you know, making money or having a girlfriend or constantly, and to imagine that the creation in itself have no meaning whatsoever. That was really interesting, and that's why I really appreciate Prabhupada bringing that yes, there is no meaning, there is no creation, there is no need for the creation if it's not to support self-realization.
Full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Right, and then without, right, because this is just darkness, and we just create dramas full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's human life, unless we take advantage of this transcendental knowledge. That's what the Vedas. That's the purpose of material existence. Through Brahma, Krishna gives the Vedas, pure representatives in different traditions, Jesus, to help us realize what is the meaning. And to the extent that we disregard that, then the French philosopher would be correct. Then it is like just this kind of empty, like as Shakespeare said, like life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Without endeavoring for that transcendental knowledge, then that's true. Thank you, Mom.
That's true.
Yeah.
In that sense, there's no need for human being.
Yes, and yeah, because for the most part, if our actions are not for transcendental knowledge or not at least sattvic, then we are lower than the animals. That's true. Then we're doing more harm than good. Even if we're not transcendental, but we're sattvic in our habits, we're doing some good actually. But if our actions and our mentality and our motivations are in rajas and tamas, we are doing more harm than good, and we're violating God's plan. The animals and plants, they follow God's plan. And so that's true. That's true. Thank you, Melanie. Narayan?
George.
Yeah,
Oh, George, eh?
I shaved. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
I just want to I want to express that I'm feeling enthusiastic about your endorsement of Canto 3, Chapter 15. I always appreciate it's like sneak peek preview, you know, like they do on TV. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm just really appreciating and get like a glimpse of heaven in like 2 cantos and 11 chapters. Like it's so I just wanted to. I also like the other day you're saying about about an incarnation of Buddha that was not from this Kali Yuga. It was
Yep.
so. Anyway, I just wanted to share that I'm feeling enthusiastic. Appreciate your sneak preview.
Thanks for sharing. I appreciate your enthusiasm and joy in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any other sharing, questions, comments, realizations? Thank you for your association. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.